And for my next trick, I'm going to make the tormented beast in ice disappear! Oh yes, it's finally time for Blizzard. Hello, my fellow sorcerers then, and welcome to something that I have been just constantly getting requested I do since the start of the season, and that is a Blizzard Ice Spikes build. It's something I've done essentially in every season. It's one of my favorite builds, and in Season 5 it has never been more powerful. It's also never been more awkward to use. There's a lot of good here, and there's also a bit of bad, and we'll get to both. But first and foremost, why did I wait? Well, I'm sure most of you do know, but if you didn't know, Blue Rose, which got absolutely nuclear buffed into Season 5, wasn't actually working correctly until yesterday. So I had the Blizzard build ready to go for, well, essentially since the first week of the season, and I've just been waiting and waiting until Blue Rose gets fixed, and it's finally gotten fixed. But what specifically was fixed? Well, the Affix chance for ice spikes to explode twice wasn't increasing. If you got a GA roll on it, it didn't go up. If you upgraded it with Masterworking, it didn't go up. Nothing helped it. Which is obviously a big deal, as every time an ice spike explodes twice, that's double damage. And if you get a greater Affix roll on chance to do ice spikes twice, and you hit the Masterwork at least twice, you're going to be looking at approaching that 100% chance mark. I got unlucky with mine here, hitting everything once, of course I did, but even just hitting it the once, we're at 77%. So you essentially have an affix here that reads, your build does double damage when you reach that 100% with a bit of RNG. So waiting for that to be fixed so it can happen was obviously very important. And now here we are, well, you've been having a look at the results. And essentially, Blizzard in Season 5...
In conclusion...
Okay, look, let's talk the numbers, because that's where it shines. It is one of the most damaging builds in the game. If we're looking at the ability to just purely kill a single target that's not moving, this is up there with anything. It absolutely shreds and melts, and it's wonderful. It's not going to reach the tippity top like your peak rogues or your lightning spear pure splintering energy, but it's not a million miles away, and that's really impressive. And because of Blizzard's unique ability to pre-stack all of your damage before the enemy even appears, it's actually probably the best torment boss farming build in the game, which I do think is quite amusing, as you're seeing with the ridiculous speed it instantly melts, well, everything as soon as it appears. Yes, even faster than pure splintering energy. The issue is, though, Blizzard is a circle on the ground, and enemies are allowed to move out of the circle on the ground. Now, normally that's not the worst. In the pits, bosses tend to stay on top of you, /still, so you can stack them in it, and yeah, it's a very good pit-pushing build. A easy tier 110 as an example here, kills the boss in under 30 seconds. Especially considering the fact, and to stress, I don't have 12 out of 12 masterworked gear with perfect affixes all hit at 4, 8, and 12, so the fact it's still doing this well is really promising. But the pit, in terms of usefulness to you, is kind of pointless, because there's no tangible rewards worth doing it for. It's simply just to test your build to its absolute limit, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the practical content that matters is Infernal Hordes. And obviously with the amount of damage we're doing, killing things is no problem. I've also worked in some really neat pure immortality here, which I'm very happy with, that we will get to. Unless of course a desecrator decides to nuke you for 10 billion damage from off screen with 3 fireballs. And in Infernal Hordes, you, well, want to be able to wipe the room of enemies as quickly as possible to get as much Aether as possible. And again, Blizzard is a circle on the ground and enemies can move out of it, and you have to ramp up and stack up your damage layering the blizzards. So with how fast the mode moves and enemies spawning everywhere and new Aether events spawning, it actually is a real struggle to just kill enough enemies, not through raw power because the build melts everything it touches, but just sheer coverage speed is lacking. You could definitely work in something like Raiment, maybe play Teleport Enchant to try and speed that up, but I really wanted to push the pure boss killing potential because that's my favorite thing to do with ice spikes, just stacking them on one target and watching a single health bar melt. So when you get to the council, so a tier 8 single council member, this build currently in, again, it's only 8 out of 12, it's not got perfect affixes, kills in a minute. And a minute for a tier 8 council health bar is really good. But the issue is, it's not all 3 of them at once, because most of the time you're not going to get, like, Cruel following you around, the dude that stands in the middle, you're going to get, like, Maelstrom or, God forbid, Flame. So you might melt one of them down, but then you're chasing Flame round the arena, and every time he teleports, which is constantly, you've got to go relayer all of your blizzards on top of him, so you lose all your damage, have to start ramping it up, which, as you can imagine, creates quite the awkward situation. So this is a monster at farming tier 7, if that's your thing, and I don't want to put you off the build in general. It's obviously ludicrously powerful, I find it fun, and I know a lot of you guys too, in nearly every bit of content in the game, except the tippiest top of tier 8 speed clearing, it's going to dominate, and it's a phenomenal, essentially unrivaled Torment boss farmer. But I do want to give you fair warning that simply because of how it delivers damage, it does struggle to kill a wide spread group of enemies with a lot of health, which is what your council fight boils down to. So it's in a weird place. In terms of damage, as I said, one of the best builds in the game. In terms of practical usage in Infernal Hordes, not as much. And then you have moments like this when I finally have finished chasing Flame around long enough to stagger him, everything's firing, and his health bar is just rocketing down, which is awesome for a not fully upgraded build. So it's just obviously still hilariously slower than pure lightning spear splintering energy, but then again, most things are. But that said, it being fixed with Blue Rose to actually enable you to do essentially double damage is wonderful to see. Getting 20 to 40 million crits per ice spikes, given that you're thundering down hundreds of them exploding with so many layered blizzards, is delicious. I've worked in nearly 80% attack speed here, so we really are layering them quickly. The 100% crit chance, of course, and everything just comes together to give you some real power. So, if you are on board this Blizzard train, this is how it's done. Oh yes, I've been waiting all season to say this. Let's get in to the skill tree for beautiful ice spikes. Starting with 2 points into Firebolt, both to move on and to get your first enchantment sorted, as that Devouring Blaze Burning crit synergy is everything to ice spikes. In your cause, there's not a lot we can really do that helps, so we just put a point into Potent Warding and then 3 into Devastation to move on. Here we get our teleport into Enhanced and Shimmering like normal for all the goodness teleport to do, max out your glass cannon for free damage, why not? Grab your ice armor, then your enhanced, and then mystical ice armor. For the boss is staggered, I'm going to press ice armor and delete it button. We get 1 into elemental attunement just to reset these 2 and help smooth out our cool down curve, and then conjuration awaits. We want ourselves to max out align the elements. Honestly, you can spend these 2 points wherever you want. They're sort of spare, free floating. If you're having mana troubles, you can come down here and fill out Frigid Breeze. Otherwise, yeah, it is up to you. I just whacked them here as I felt it was helping out a little bit. But mainly we want the double defensives of Mana Shield and Protection all done. Get your Ice Blades into Enhanced and and then summoned, and we make that our second enchantment slot to give us a cooldown reduction engine. Fill out your Conjuration Mastery because it's phenomenal, and essentially every Sorcerer build wants as many stacks of it as we can get, and Lightning Spear enhanced and then invoked for even more stacks, crit, and importantly, shock damage that will crit things at range for us automatically. Then we go into Mastery, where we grab 1 rank of Blizzard. No need to fill it out, the damage isn't from the Blizzard, it's from the Ice Spike, so we save 4 points here. Then grab Enhanced and Mages. Onwards to Inner Flames, and then full in Devouring Blaze, and that sees us to the ultimates. Get the trio of I want a Frost build to hit harder please in Hoarfrost, Permafrost, and Icy Touch maxed out. I've got 1 point in Frigid Breeze just to smooth the mana curve out, as it helps a nice little bit. Then we get Unstable Currents with Prime just to make it a straight up attack button for 25% speed, and layer those blizzards even faster. Then we get 1 Intercoursing Currents, 3 out of 3 Electrocution just to get a little bit more damage reduction. Your Teleport and your Lightning Spears will see it applied to everything. And our key passive then is Via's Mastery. Yeah! So we only need to crit with a shock skill to activate it. Once you are charged, the damage doesn't matter what type it is, so we get to do all of this lovely extra, the 250% if it's just a single target from Via's, even though we're playing Ice Spikes, and that is huge. And then we activate this charged state with your Teleport and indeed your Lightning Spear, which is why I mentioned having it flying around critting is very important here. We also get the extra 25% damage reduction, which is lovely too. So that then is that for your skill tree. Let's talk gear, because here is where I'm very happy with the specific choices I've made to power this as much as I can. With your gems, you want crit damage in your weapons, you want armor in your jewelry, and then you want intelligence in your armor. If you are feeling a little bit squishy, then just put some rubies in instead, mix and match it till you reach that nice balance. Aspect-wise, the most important one, of course, is Glacial. Whack it on your staff, double it up, and get those ice spikes hitting as hard as they can. Because we have a ridiculous amount of attack speed, all the way up at 70%, because we're using andariels, even with a staff, we could just layer so quickly, which is really neat. Working in andariels into Blizzard is fantastic here, because not only does it give us that ridiculous layering attack speed, which is a huge damage increase, we also get the 4th stack of Talrashes, which is a huge damage increase, and we can leverage the life on hit to make us immortal with a bit of temerity, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Then on your gloves, you want yourself Frozen Tundra for that 50% increased explosion radius, so more ice spikes hit more things. It's very, very important. And then lastly, your Storm Swell on your amulet, 1.5 times up, because it's doing a lot of work this season, as it's giving us way more damage than it should, but I am certainly not complaining. Then when it comes to your uniques, we want our Esu's Heirloom for both the crit damage and crit chance. We want ourselves your Talrash's Iridescent Loop for, well, all of the big damage it provides, and a bit of cooldown reduction. Then we have ourselves Temerity, yes indeed, to act as our permanent barrier, which is lovely because A, it keeps us alive, and B, it means we have permanent uptime on Storm Swell, despite not having that much cooldown reduction to keep barriers up via just protection. We're not using Shaco here, so we're missing a chunk of cooldown reduction. Shaco isn't actually that good for Blizzard. The +4 ranks doesn't give us damage, because the damage isn't from Blizzard. The armor, the resource, the life, all is nice, but it doesn't give us any damage. The cooldown reduction, of course, is also nice, but spamming your abilities more, again, doesn't really help too much in terms of damage. It's just a few more conjurations, which is, yes, more conjuration mastery stacks, but nowhere near the increase that being able to put down blizzards 51% faster. And then because we have made this choice and are using andariels, we get to then play Talrash's over Ring of Starless Skies, which might initially seem strange, but when you think about it, again, the +5 to core skills doesn't matter, it doesn't do anything for us. We don't need the lucky hit chance, the attack speed is more than covered by andariels, and we comfortably have a 100% crit chance without the crit chance. So then it's the effect. Well, we don't need the resource cost reduction because I have solved infinite mana a different way, and then 50% damage increase is obviously less than the 80% we're getting from the loop. So this is a lovely little swap that gives us an extra kick here. And then, yes, the star of the show, buffed and lovely Blue Rose. Ideally, you want a greater affix chance for ice spikes to explode twice, so you can aim for that 100%, but this thing is just beautiful now, and you want to get as good of a one as you can. It's the most important. Then, yes, as I said, andariels for our helmet. And then the last little piece of the puzzle is just a Snow Guard's chest, and we're not using materials because we need the affix that I will get to shortly. So, yeah, Snow Guard on here just to help keep us alive. So, stats-wise then, we have ourselves, as I said, the really lovely amount of attack speed, but crit strike, we get an extra 20% from the stalagmite glyph, so that's 70%, and then we have Esu's heirloom. So when we dodge and get the movement speed, oh, our crit chance goes up to 80%, plus 20 from the glyph, that's 100. So it should be said that yes, using your dodge to run faster and max out Esu's is a key core part of your DPS loop in this build. Use it on cooldown to increase your crit chance to 100%. Then, mana. So, because we're attacking so fast and layering down blizzards that are costing a decent amount and we don't have Starless Skies helping, we need to solve mana. And we do that by simply a mana per second roll on your chest, which is why we're using this over materials, and then you can also combo that with some resource cost reduction on your staff, though that one is optional. These two things by themselves mean that, yeah, we can simply just spam this 70% attack speed blizzard stacking without worrying about running out of mana, as you can see. Even with an extra 25% attack speed from unstable currents being up, we're still not in danger of ever running out of mana. And it doesn't need to be a greater affix mana per second, that just of course makes it easier, but that's the general flow here. If you do end up feeling you're still having mana problems, then yes, you can swap in a Starless Skies over your Tal Rashes, and if you're still kinda suffering, then sure, put on your Harlequin over andariels. But if we want to really eke out as much damage from these ice spikes as possible, and cast them as fast as possible, this is the way to go. And then because, as I said, we have andariels, which means we don't have Shaco, which means we have fairly high cooldowns, we need a solution for having a permanent barrier for Storm Swell. So we combine the life on hit with Temerity, which is why we're not using Tibalts, to have this, yes, permanently refilling near max health barrier to keep us alive and keep us always doing maximum damage. It really is a beautiful synergy that I'm very, very happy with. So, just to finish then, actual affixes. On the staff, you want life, critical strike damage, and then either intelligence or resource cost reduction. On your gloves, you want attack speed, crit strike chance, and critical strike damage. On your chest, you want mana per second. You need either a GA armor roll, or you need a normal armor roll, and to upgrade it to the maximum and a high roll, or hit it once during your masterworking in order to be armor capped, and then after that, health or intelligence. On your amulet, the ideal amulet is attack speed, conjuration mastery, and devouring blaze, but any of the frosty damage increasing ones are also pretty good to get, but 100% get a devouring blaze amulet and raise it as high as you can get. Talking of raising, let's go talk tempering and masterworking. On your chest to start with, you want chance to freeze, just so you can instantly freeze things without having to wait for the chill to build, but chance to immobilize is also fine, and then either warmth or just some extra life. Everywhere else then, you want Ice Spike damage. Ice Spike damage, Ice Spike damage, Ice Spike damage on all of your equipment. Past that, you want the chance to immobilize or freeze on your gloves. You want chance for Ice Blades to cast twice on your staff. This helps with our cooldown reduction, as we have so much attack speed that is transferring to our Ice Blades, and then they are giving everything even more cooldown reduction, so we actually do have fairly quickish cooldowns, despite not running Shaco, thanks to this, which is really good too, and something I'm also quite pleased with. And then lastly, Unstable Currents cooldown reduction to go with the Ice Spike damage on your neck, just so we can use our attack speed steroid more often. Masterworking then, you want to hit your chance for Ice Spikes till you can get it to 100%. You want to hit everywhere else Ice Spike damage, except for on your neck, where it's Devouring Blaze. Always. Other than that, the ones that are obvious, like cooldown reduction on your Tal Rashes. When it comes to playing this, very, very simple. Just stack your blizzards on top of enemies. Use your lightning spear and icy blades on cooldown. Use your teleport pretty much on cooldown, both for the mana and for the extra damage from Tibolts. And then use your ice armor to either A, do more damage to a staggered boss, save it for that as essentially a cooldown, or to make sure that you keep your barrier uptime. You always want to have a barrier here. Storm Swell is so important. It is for every Sorcerer build, but it's always something worth pointing out. Unstable Currents for hefty packs of elites, or indeed bosses. Use it as that 25% attack speed steroid to layer blizzards even faster, and then past that, yeah, you just move through whatever you're doing, dropping a couple blizzards on each group of enemies, and watch them melt. You don't need to overcommit. A couple blizzards, 2-3 will be enough to kill essentially anything unless you're pushing hard content, so you can just put the 2-3 down and then move on and watch them die behind you. And in your Infernal Hordes, you just kind of cover everything in blizzards, and then it just spawns in and immediately gets blown up, and that is absolutely wonderful. So, let's talk Paragon. Time to activate 8 glyphs and get all of the legendary nodes we need. Yeah, this is a good one. Follow me point for point, and we're off. Up to the right, through Elementalist, and then straight to the glyph slot, where we find Tactician. Get it activated with the dex to the right and the dex to the left. Grab Erudite while we're here, and then up through Elemental Balance into the next board, which is our Enchantment Master. Unlike usual, where we tend to grab Elementalist here, we don't actually need the extra non-physical damage, because Blue Rose gives so much cold damage, so Frigid Fate is just fine without it. So we can go straight right up through this non-physical, grab the extra int, grab Elemental Balance, then go to the glyph slot where Elementalist is slotted. One extra bit of int to make it happen, and then continue right to this willpower, grab Erudite, and then off to the gate, into the next board, which is going to be your Burning Instinct board. Straight across to this Strength, then we want to head right up to Safeguard, and then we'll stop there for now. Don't worry about this till last. Down from said Strength all the way to the Glyph, where we slot Destruction, and then grab Cinders 2. We finish activating Destruction by going straight down from it into Smoldering Embers, and then the 2/7 dexes. We don't max it out with all of the decks this time around, because we don't have the spare points, and because raw Ice Spike damage is more important than an extra boost to crit damage in any case. So we want to head right into the gate and the next board, which is Frigid Fate. Arranged so that Guarded is in the top right, straight down to this Magic Dode, head left to the Glyph where Unleash is slotted, and then down to Chilling to finish activating it, as we then head right through Weakness to this Dex, loop round for Frigid Fate, and then continue on to this Willpower, up to Guarded, and then finally to the gate and the next board. And said board is going to be your Elemental Summoner. Arranged like this, we want to go straight to this int, up to this int, and then through Conjurer right to the Glyph, which is going to be Stalagmite for that lovely 20% extra crit on Ice Spikes. Finish activating it by grabbing Erudite, and then head up and to the right through this int, and then to the gate, where we have ourselves Ceaseless Conduit. We're just going to pass through here to activate another Glyph, so arrange it in the bottom right like so, and go straight to said glyph slot via these 2 dexes for Flame Feeder. 1 little more dex down here, and then up through 2 more to activate it before we emerge into the final board on this side of things, which is going to be your Icefall. We want it arranged like this so that Polar Rime is close to the gate, so the willpower nodes are close to the gate, initially to this int, up to this non-physical, right to Polar Rime, as we may as well grab it, and then up and round to Icefall. Then continue on down here through your Frosts, grabbing the willpower on this little strand, and then going up to the glyph slot where we're going to have Reinforced, give us that extra little bit of survivability while you've got your barrier on, and then 1 little bit of willpower to finish activating it. Lastly then, we want to continue up from Safeguard in your Burning Instinct all the way to the gate, where we will get ourselves Static Surge with the glyph closest to the gate, head up and right at the fork before grabbing, well, all of this cluster of decks, and Incapacitate 2, as again, we might as well have it, and here we have Exploit finding its home activated nicely. So that is your Paragon, and honestly, a really freaking good one for Ice Spikes, if I do say so myself. And there we have it then. That is your Ice Spikes for Season 5. In terms of damage, absolutely exceptional. In terms of usability in a lot of the game modes that matter, not as much. It's certainly both exciting and a shame, but hey, it is what it is, and I have delivered for you guys. Look out then for all the upcoming builds still to be tested, a few of the favourites you've been requesting as well. For now, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.